Well, how long has it been now? We had a flood, unprecedented flood, 52 inches of rain, almost 4.5 feet of water that fell on us. And then overnight we had flooding in areas that we had not had flooding in since any of the people living now can remember.
When Harvey came, the first thing we thought of when I got water in my home, I quickly started thinking about the members of our ward. And as much as I hated to call people at 3 in the morning, I was calling members of our ward and waking them up. And some of them were waking up to find that they had water in their home also.
We lost 86 homes of our members in the Orange and Vidor, Texas. Immediately afterwards, there were, a lot of emergencies that had to be taken care of, and we were extremely blessed in that we had little things that just kind of began to fall in place to help us along the way. A group called the Diesel Brothers, they have their own little TV show, and they live up in Bountiful, Utah. They brought all kinds of rescue equipment down. And they were one of the very few that could actually make it through the waters and make it down to us. And they set up in the church parking lot. They brought a helicopter. They brought a Hummer. They brought a truck large enough to hold the Hummer in the back of it. And every time we had an emergency where we needed to go pick up one of our members and help one of our members, all we had to do was ask, and off they went.
President Harris asked me to check on, I told him about some members that were not doing well and that we couldn't get to them. And so he told me he was going to send someone to me so we could go and check on these members. And so someone showed up met me at Flying J and in a very, very large truck. And we were able to drive through 4 feet of water plus in places to go check on some of the members. It was a very humbling and sweet opportunity.
These Diesel Brothers also brought in 2 18-wheeler loads of donated goods. And they dropped them off at the church. We called in members and they started manning the booth, and we opened it up to the community, and we helped feed and water the community for days and days. It was kind of a strange thing. We would start running low on something, and somebody with a truck or a trailer full of something that had somehow managed to make it into us began to drop off the supplies to us. Chinooks from the National Guard would land on the churchyards and drop off supplies. FEMA trucks, when they could get in, they would bring supplies. And we had cars lined up all day long, picking up the necessities. We got through mostly the first emergent part, and the roads finally started opening up again, and then we had to start worrying about phase 2, and that's structures.
Some other experiences we had, we were able to gut some people's homes that weren't members of our church. Actually, many people that weren't members of our church. Help them clean their houses out. And they kept trying to pay us and give us things or compensate us somehow. And it's fun to teach them that we were being paid, that we're being paid more than they could ever imagine, and that it's a privilege to serve.
A dear friend of mine named Jeremy Grissell, he sent a text from Lufkin and asked me if I was okay. He happened to be in a state presidency, which was in charge of a region of the church just north of us, and I thought to myself, goodness gracious, they can get in from the north. And I called him and I said, I need fresh men. By the next weekend, the church sent 1,000 men, mostly from men and women, mostly from Louisiana and Mississippi. They came in and just worked wonders for us. throughout that weekend. They helped us muck 200 local homes, which was just amazing what we're able to do with that group of men. People who weren't active in our church, people who weren't members of our church.
I'm Priscilla Healy, and I'm in the Williamson 2nd Ward. I work at Vidor Junior High. I'm a teacher and coach there, and proud to introduce our assistant principal on campus, Gary Lockhart, also known as Brother Lockhart. We've adopted him into our family. He spent 2 weeks straight of helping our community and the citizens of Vidor with supplies that we've needed through this storm. So we appreciate what he's done for us.
It's been fun. So you said adopted. The cool thing about adoption, the laws are such that you can't unadopt me now. So I'm here. I'm in it. It's been a privilege. I regret the need to do it, but I've never worked with greater people who don't think of themselves always as great, but think of themselves as servants. And it's remarkable to see the difference that's made in the lives of people who seem to have no hope. And then someone like this comes in and offers hope. This is a well-oiled machine, and I'm glad to be part of it.
Me too.
Yes.
Okay, I'm Donald, but the most important person here is TJ. He's Thor. He's the guy with the sledgehammer. He destroys things that we can't touch. He does things that we can't do. He just has a powerful swing.
I met them trying to find help for a house that I was working in at the time, and they said that they would come help me to gain me and a few other coaches on their staff to try to help them out in tearing out some houses. So it worked out real well, I think, for both of us.
Yes. How long have we been doing this?
I don't know, 2 weeks or something?
2 weeks. The first time we met him in a house, and then we kept going for 4 or 5 days straight without stopping every day. I think this is the 15th house or something like that. Maybe 16th, I'm not sure. But we've been at it. He's been with us constantly. He's just begging for a yellow shirt, but we haven't been able to find a 3X. But we will find it.
Some of these kids that have been working on our work crew lost their homes. They lost their homes too, and Stormy's one of them. And her home was flooded, and she's been here every day working with us, even though she doesn't have a house and she's staying with somebody. And there's a lot of kids like that as soon as they finish their house, they jump on and they're cleaning other people's and they smile. And Stormy hasn't complained one time, and she's just one of them that they go home at night to displaced places and they get up and come and help other people.
We didn't have any flooding. So we have been working hard
every morning,
well,
every Saturday and Sunday.
And what are we doing?
To work.
Going to work. We've been really blessed and very grateful for everybody, all the kindness being shown by these other states that have been coming down and helping take care of us, going and mucking out houses. We've had people from Jackson, Mississippi, and Biloxi, and Philadelphia, Mississippi, which I'd never heard of. I knew there was a Philadelphia, but somehow it got moved from Pennsylvania to Mississippi. And following President Harris' direction, and wherever he points, we go.
Wheelbarrow story. Okay, so me and my Uncle Donnie, he's the crew leader. We went and walked around this house, and there was a whole bunch of work to be done. We only had 2 wheelbarrows. And I was like, well, we can't do anything because, well, like 2 wheelbarrows, you can barely get anything done. So we started anyway, and then like middle of us working, I saw 3 wheelbarrows go by, and no one knows where it came from really. And we left when we, at the end of the day, we came back and we ended up with 2 wheelbarrows. So that was pretty cool.
Right before the flood, there was a man named Elder J.B. Jones from the Dallas-Fort Worth area who had came down and presided over a conference here. And he left just right before the hurricane hit. And right after the flood, he sent me a text. He said, I heard you got hit pretty hard. He said, I wanted to let you know we have a lot of men and we will be there as soon as we can. He sent 3,000 men and women to the Beaumont area and this Vidor and Orange area. There in the local schools, Dr. Kilgo allowed us to house these men and women in the local high school, local elementary, local junior high, and over at LCM in the Orange area, that high school allowed us to house men.
In my home, I wasn't home much during this time. I wasn't able to help my family as much as I would like to have, but the helping hands came to my home and gutted my house while I wasn't there, and it was a huge blessing. So I got to see both sides of the coin. It was very humbling to know that people came from San Antonio and Alabama or wherever they came from other states to drive all the way down here for hours and hours to come and help us and help me and my family, especially when I wasn't able to be there myself. The Lord takes care of us. He knows what we need.
And
Got to meet Elder Razban yesterday. That was pretty cool. Yeah,
awesome.
got to shake his hand.
You know, one of the highlights of the weekend is we got a call that told us that Elder Razband, one of our world leaders, an apostle, would come down and wanted to just see some of the members and see some of the hard-hit areas. And of course he arrives, and the first thing he does is he steps out of the car, he gives me a hug, asked me how I was doing, and he brought a message with him. He said, we are the Quorum of the 12 and the First Presidency. Number one, we love you. Number two, we're praying for you. And number three, we thank you for all you're doing. And he went around and he told every crew that. And before he left, he gave me another hug and he gave me a little shake and said, you remember that message and you keep sharing it. I remember the first house I took him into. We walked in and this house had just been devastated, and we had a crew in there just trying to pull things out, and the homeowner came up to say thank you, and as he started to say thank you, he got choked up and he couldn't talk anymore. Then Elder Razman started to cry. And he reached down and he grabbed his sunglasses and started putting them on and said, President, I don't want them to see me cry. But before too long, his tears were flowing so hard he had to take his glasses off just to wipe his eyes.
I'm so grateful to have the Allens and the Wrights and the whole LDS community to help. This has been quite overwhelming. It's just been a really exhausting experience, and really overwhelming at times. But I really thank y'all for coming and for helping us.
I know that the Lord loves his children and hears us and knows what we're going through and wants to hear from us and is eager to help us. It's such a blessing to be able to help others, but at the same time, sometimes it's good for us to be helped by others.
You know, throughout this entire thing, I mean, we saw miracles, little tender mercies from God that helped us along the way. If God cares about the details and the little things in our life, the big things matter too. If he cares about that with us, he cares about it with everybody else.